I'd like to introduce you to a CEO. His hair is perfect. His blue-green eyes match his blue-green shirt. But something's wrong. As he holds a finger to his quivering lips, there are glistening streaks on his eyes and cheeks. He's crying. In his LinkedIn post, he explains why. He says, I know it isn't professional to tell my employees that I love them, but from the bottom of my heart, I know how much they do. It feels vulnerable, and yet it also feels somehow incongruous, inauthentic. The CNBC News headline reads, CEO posts crying selfie on LinkedIn after laying off employees, and it goes viral. As the CEO of a marketing agency, making posts go viral is his job. So I ask, is he a marketing genius? Is he a callous player of human emotions? Or is he someone who took a huge risk, sharing his true pain, and was vilified for it? This is the dark side of authenticity. The dictionary defines authenticity as the quality of being real or true, not false or imitation. I choose to define authenticity like a chocolate piñata. For me, when you smash someone open, what's inside should be similar to what's outside. Sometimes what's inside is bitter and dark. Sometimes what's inside is rich and creamy, like ooey caramel. But we're all still chocolate. Unfortunately, like eating too much dark chocolate makes you feel a little bit somber and perhaps even icky, so does authenticity. And I wanted to find out why. So I searched for an answer. And I found 4 stories that explain it. The stories we tell ourselves, the stories our customers tell us, the stories influencers tell us, and the stories we hear from our leaders. How do we appear to the world? Who is our authentic self, and why is it uncomfortable to share this? I spoke with S. Scott Mason, a former attorney who calls himself the myth slayer, so he knows about digging beneath the surface. He says true authenticity is uncomfortable. It's vulnerable. And it's scary to be vulnerable. It requires an enormous amount of charisma to own your truth. For decades, perhaps centuries, we have masked ourselves because we fear rejection and because of our desire for social acceptance. But with the rise of authenticity on social media, people started sharing more of their inner selves, revealing deeper, darker truths. It wasn't always comfortable for readers and for viewers, but we hoped it was authentic. So, what about the stories that businesses share with the world? Are they authentic? A popular statistic is doing the rounds. It says 92% of consumers trust reviews and testimonials more than traditional advertising. Hardly surprising, stories are compelling. I once bought a tumble dryer because I saw it had a shoe rack that made drying your trainers after you'd washed them absolutely easy. I never used it, but that's why I bought it. But is the stat itself authentic? Well, sadly, its original data source has been lost to the internet. So is it still true? Or is this another reason to cast doubt on the authenticity of so-called facts? When the Merriam Webster dictionary chose authentic as their word of the year, AI, celebrity culture, identity, and social media were also big conversations at the time. We were questioning the very nature of trust. Fake news was doing the rounds. So were we questioning the role of influencers in our perception of what's good and bad? So think about Dragon's Den star Stephen Bartlett, the podcaster and influencer. he had his nutrition adverts banned for being misleading. Now, Stephen is a fantastic storyteller. He's an influencer, as are his podcast guests. So does this error in judgment make us distrust his whole brand? As consumers of products, media, brands, and influencers, we are right to apply a healthy level of distrust to promotional materials. As far back as 2018, there was research that showed that despite its popularity, 62% of consumers now feel that influencer content takes advantage of impressionable audiences. When influencers we love inadvertently reveal their darker side, we feel played, emotionally manipulated by the very people who often claim to believe in authenticity, the leaders in their space. But what about our leaders at work? Are their stories authentic? I caught up with a senior leader in higher education who has seen the dark side of authenticity at work. In her previous job, she could not tell employees the truth. So she had to learn to differentiate between two stories. The ones you tell your people and the one you tell about yourself. Even now, she says, it feels safer to me, having gone through a hard time, to not be authentic. By being authentic, I allowed myself to be vulnerable and naive, which was exploited and used against me. She says, you can only use authenticity in a place of trust. Perhaps authenticity in leadership has had its day too. Even academics have put it under the microscope. Inola and Alverson say one can consider all the buzz around authenticity and its polar opposite, inauthenticity, indicating a gradual erosion of authenticity in academia and elsewhere. Yes, the backlash is real. So is there even still a place for authenticity in leadership, business, and storytelling? Hell yes! I believe that stories can transform our world, but only if we use them carefully. The New York Times says there's a fine line between helpful and harmful authenticity. Authenticity without boundaries, they say, is careless. When we broadcast our limitations, we need to be careful to avoid casting doubt on our strengths, particularly as leaders. Perhaps authenticity is going through a hype cycle, like Gartner calls it. We had the innovation trigger, we went through the peak of inflated expectations, and perhaps we've reached the trough of disillusionment. But as AI takes over our social media feeds, the internet, and our daily work, is authenticity going to be forever tainted with this bad smell? Or will there be a slope of enlightenment at some point? I choose to believe that stories are what will keep us and our human spirit alive. Joe Rohn Lazaro, who works at a New York-based ad agency, recently wrote this. The coming creative catastrophe isn't about machines getting too good at making advertising at scale, or iPhone arts, or apps. It's about people forgetting what makes human creativity irreplaceable. The unmistakable fingerprints of someone who's been places and felt things and made choices that mattered. The algorithm can give you what you want, but a person can give you what you didn't know you needed. What we need is more realness, not less. As humans, we crave the genuine, the true, the credible. Perhaps we just don't want to call it authentic anymore. So what's next? Authenticity 2.0. Integrity. Is this a genuine evolution of the term or just a synonym? I'll leave you to decide.